ourselves into it, ladies and gentlemen. Map number 1 of the day is now live here between the Soniqs and Beast Coast. So let's get ourselves into it. Beast Coast has the first and final bans. Soniqs is the 2 center ones on the blue team. First ban coming up right now from Beast Coast on the attacking side, and they're going to choose to eliminate the Dokkaebi.
Yep.
She has been pretty high on the ban rate so far in this season, is going to remain the case here on day number 2.
Beast Coast are likely going to thrive just based on that. Mr. Beast teams tend to lean more on the aggressive side, liking to get aggressive on the roam. Dokkaebi makes that style of play a lot more difficult, makes those clears a lot easier, but Soniqs will respond with a very smart attacking ban as well. I was talking to Demo in the green room yesterday about the power of a Ying ban against an unstructured and an inexperienced team. Ying can allow you to cheese some attacking rounds that you otherwise might not have gotten, and that's a tool that Beast Coast would have loved. The Solus as well, that ability to deny intel on the defense. Beast Coast likely, had Solus been left up, would have used it to great extent to stop Sonic's powerful entry game, but now, not possible.
Yep, so Solus will be removed from play. A couple options in terms of where Beast Coast can send the last ban, but more than likely they're going to end up with something as we expect. Now, Mira is going to be the one to be knocked out. Mira still with a lot of play potential, specifically for Cafe, when you look at both the top and lower level sites. So as a result of that, she is still going to end up getting banned out quite often here.
That does leave Valkyrie and Azami both up, 2 very powerful defensive operators. We could see the Valk played quite a bit if the defense likes to go for that bar cocktail side. We'll see a Valkyrie go down inside of Pillar or Mining to try to throw up a C4 either under New Hatch or on the attacking team entering through the ticket wall into stage. But at the moment, no Valkyrie pick from Beast Coast, so might be saving that later, and seemingly no Azami pick either. Instead, though, they might not be those operators. That doesn't mean they're trying to change things up too much. Based on the up lineup we're looking at, this might be the standard pixel hold we normally see. Putting a shield inside that pixel area, watching the stage repel. But the Aruna Gates as well could see some denial placed on that cigar doorway to make sure, but already here with the Vulcan canister already detonating. No. It appears that because of that, those head holes now made, they'll just be playing this Cafe strat like many do on Cocktail.
All right, let's take a peek. See if there's going to be any additional players added to this one, specifically for the Sonic side. They are going to bring themselves a few repicks. It's actually just moving the Yana over to a different player as Rexon decides they do need that extra bit of Zofia utility, so she will be brought back in instead. A very minor adjustment overall to the composition. Now it spawns the Sonics out onto the board. So let's get ourselves into it as the first round is now live. And as Lynx mentioned, not too many surprises when it comes to the defensive setup here either. Just a solid third floor hold coming in as we might expect.
No, a lot of what I expect from Beast Coast in this match will be surprises in the mid round. What individual players do, and then of course how Sonics respond. Hat tends to be a very aggressive player, at least he was in Challenger League. Doc too, though Doc did not have, as Jesse mentioned, any bit of success yesterday really on border. So I imagine Sonics will have to be wary of any or well, both of these 2 defenders roaming on that middle floor. Vertical also playing very aggressively inside of stage early on. If Sonics read into this or take quick control of that repel, which they are lacking at the moment, they could easily deal with them. But right now Hat's made some noise, will rotate back down, but Sonics instead focusing almost entirely on the Cocktail side of things right now with a Nook station on the snow door. Might instead try to take this up the white stairs after going for some nades from below under Cocktail balcony.
Things need to move very slowly as the attackers try to build up that presence required to dump more utility, and Mr. B is going to end up being found out first on the upstairs clear, and Hat not even realizing that Citizen had committed himself in through Hell Door as well. That presence hider is going to end up working out to save them a bit here. So they'll continue to frag up, but they also lose 2 of their own players in the process here as both Rexon and Geo are finally countered back out. But Sonic still in control of the overall situation as it's been brought down to a 3 versus 2 now on the upstairs hold.
Sonic's always very quick at acquiring that control, and even though they don't have too much at the moment, they've dealt so much damage to Beast Coast manpower with only Hyper left in the site, and Vertical still having to maybe worry about that cigar pressure. Yep, he'll have to relegate himself to not only holding the shield, but maybe holding white stairs as well. Those nades from below, that control Sonics have acquired, so powerful. Info on his position as well, this can very easily become a 1v3 if just that nade comes even a little bit close, and indeed it does. Vertical now having to clutch a 1v3 and having to worry about every angle possible.
Vertical not with the greatest bank of intel to play off of here either. Sonics pretty much cool off all of their aggression entirely after Rexon and Geo were traded out. So they've been holding angles ever since then, meaning that Vertical is basically taking a guess in terms of where to find these remaining 3 players that is going to continue to hold at top white. Hopefully bleed out the remaining 50 seconds if at all possible. But you can see Sonics once again remaining incredibly patient, keeping themselves held back. And now finding out the position of Vertical, coming up with a plan to execute upon him, knock him out, and try to close out this round. They'll indeed do so as Grixer finishes it off, and Sonics convincingly claim round number 1, save for a few trays in the mid-round.
attacking strategy there as well, a logical consequence or a logical extension of what they did on border yesterday. We saw them always and very frequently, not always, but very frequently go underneath the bomb site for where SSG were defending and try to hit those nades from below, and their cocktail strategy was basically a perfect parallel to that. All they do is they open up snow door, go for those nades from below, get some players on cocktail rappel, and then deal with the players that are inside of the site from both the angle with their guns and from underneath with their grenades. So if that's the kind of play we're going to see from Soniqs, we'll likely need to see Beast Coast either get more aggressive on those rappels or dedicate more resources to stopping that entry, because if they're only going through one doorway, it's possible, but Beast Coast actually need to coordinate and stop them at that entrance.
Soniqs flirting with a very interesting potential strat here. When you look at Citizen, okay, it has been changed up a bit since then, so it's died now, but we did have potentially 2 different shield operators in play for the Soniqs at one point there in this repick phase, but yeah, both have now gone by the wayside. It was going to be Citizen on Blitz, and obviously we had Gio with the original pick of the Montaigne, but he has now swapped that over as well to the Hibana, and Citizen has decided to go over towards a Flores instead. Lion also going to be added to this one, so Soniqs maybe just expect this one to be played out on a slightly different site scenario. They will adjust their lineup accordingly to deal with the appropriate utility that Beast Coast have now brought to the table for the downstairs hold.
And again, that plethora of utility, but still likely the similar setup that we always see on Cafe. That shield at bottom white, making sure that nobody can just directly enter from that side. They do have the freezer hatch closed and reinforced off, so any of the roamers upstairs will have to go down the normal stairwells, and that will likely favor Soniqs. Again, they are very efficient at acquiring map control, and like we saw in DZ on Bank yesterday, could be very effective at blocking off those rotations backwards. Hat taking a lot of damage early on. I'm not entirely sure from where. Got the Wamayan Bakery at the moment, though, still dealing with a lot of the pressure. So if Hat's already on low HP, only 45 seconds in, and already 2 players with nades looking over towards a vertical spot behind Bakery, these are going to be the 2 points of contact that Soniqs will try to take.
Soniqs already looking to try and pinch some pressure out, both from the front side as well as towards Bakery here. Rexon not being given an angle to win out any of these crosses just as of yet, though. Still being held back, still playing it patiently because of the lack of any revealing players from Beast Coast. The time continues to tick down because of that. Thankfully, it's a pretty straightforward site to set up positioning once you are able to get past that first entry marker or 2, so time is not going to be a major concern just yet for the Soniqs here, as they're now held up outside of that Bakery as well as the main door. Gio, as you can see, starting to work his way forward. Has been able to take some control over towards the front side. Indeed, the execute barrels through. Doc with a nice trade find on the outside here, over by Whiskey Bar, is able to take down Citizen, and as well, Mr. B gets the finishing blow onto Rexon, taking him out with one of the Toxic Babes. So a little bit of a knock from Soniqs, but Beast Coast respond just as evenly to keep us locked in a 3v3.
A bit of an awkward flood from Soniqs, just trying to brute force through that middle floor, not getting any vertical control up above, just using those drones and using some of the frag grenades to try and root players out of position. And whether the frag grenades didn't get the kill, but it was still effective, taking down Hyper and Hat, but they've lost 2 bodies in the process. Bakery control still in the hands of the defense as well. That'll not allow the Wamai to rotate, but Gunner's ready and waiting. They did clear coat check, and that can often be enough, but he's traded out. Beast Coast trades on Kitchen have been so effective, and only now Soniqs acquire Bakery.
Mr. B once again on point to trade things out from the inside of the Kitchen site itself. A dash from one of their players towards Service to try and steal away one of the 2 remaining kills, but it does not pay out. So we still stay locked at that 2v2. The Soniqs so quickly running out of time to play out this scenario, trying to still take it incredibly cautiously, using their intel game to lock out these members of Beast Coast one by one. They're able to isolate out the forward position from the player closer towards Prep Kitchen, and Gritzer now trying to flank out said player's spot, but isn't fully assured of his potential push in that direction due to the cross from the other member of the team. Gio, in the meanwhile, though, is able to line up his shot against Doc, knocking him down, leaving everything onto Mr. B now. He's picked up 2 already in this round. It would be a 4K to close it down, including this 1v2 clutch. He's already found the first one. Gio's not going to waste any time in attempting to go for the plant. Mr. B has realized this. Gio gets off of it and attempts to get the peek out, but it's not going to pay off, and Gio's out of time, so Beast Coast respond in the second round to claim a 1-1 tie.
Really well played 1v2 by Mr. B right there. Not only able to win the fight against the player sitting at bottom red, but excellent usage of that smoke. Didn't panic, didn't expose himself too much. Recognized the little time he left. Look at the hype on that man in the top right now. It is round 2, by the way.
Volume warning.
They have won a single round. And Mr. B's already that hype. I will say, actually, I was going to talk about something else, but I do want to mention this. During the Beast Coast game yesterday, they seemed very quiet. I mean, obviously they were losing, but even in the early part of the game where they were winning at least 1 or 2 rounds, it was overall a very quiet team. And now we're seeing Mr. B get very excited, and obviously they put 1 round on the board. It seems like their mental might be a little bit better from yesterday, and the loss hasn't rattled them too much, which for a new team, very good to see.
Story from the tail end of yesterday was a lot of our newer rosters or newer teams stepping up to the plate and either winning or coming very close to victory on their second game of the day. Some teams even claiming overtime points despite the fact that they were not able to win their games as well. So we're going to see now this storyline continues with Beast Coast if they're able to find a nice potential upset victory over the Soniqs, who unfortunately had a bit of a rough start to yesterday as well due to the loss they sustained in a full 15-round match that they unfortunately just barely dropped 7-8 to the SSG roster.
Very tough one. Of course, Soniqs also playing 2 games today, this being the first, and I believe Soniqs have the 3rd game of today as well. So even if they end up losing this one, they'll have a chance of redemption, but still a lot of rounds to go until we even get remotely close to considering the implications of that 3rd game. Instead, for round number 3, Beast Coast appear to be going back all the way upstairs to try this defense out once again, and Soniqs have adjusted their lineup accordingly based on the presence of not 1, not 2, but 3 sets of frag grenades, and the Lion as well. Always an operator you can get on those repels to use those EE1Ds and remain static. Soniqs appear to be going for the same cocktail clear that they did before with the nades below, and Hat is ready for this. Already peeking the snow door. I like that individual adjustment, but I hope we see more members from Beast Coast, and indeed we do. Hyper up above watching the angle, and Soniqs might be rotating as they see the many Beast Coast defenders aware of the setup.
Hyper, of course, having to move back over closer towards Cocktail, having to be a little bit more apparent of the situation going on towards Skylight there. Verdict with a direct hold over by Pixel here too, ready for the challenge from the Soniqs if they want to try and force the issue down through Red and New Hatch over towards him in Cigar, but it's probably going to be some time until we see that action based on the way the Soniqs have played things out in these first 2 rounds. Very slow, very methodical, not taking a risk until they have almost certainty that the gunfight is probably going to go their way. Doc also continuing to waste out time over here by the mid-white stairs position, definitely flirting with a potential hop out if he's going to be given an opportunity to do so. We already saw how much Soniqs wanted to play in towards Heldor in the previous round. Doc wants to try and reverse that and turn it into his team's favor instead.
But Soniqs have now taken half the round and really do not have a lot of control going their way. Even though they only had raiding room before, with the amount of nades they were bringing, they could do a lot with a little. Here, they don't really have much. Citizen is all the way over by red stairs, and everyone else is outside on the same positions they would have taken with the execute they had gone with in round number 1. And yet, whereas before it was maybe 2 minutes left in the round, now it's a minute, and the only Citizen seemingly has entered the building, now pushing up white stairs. We saw Doc playing here earlier. Rexon does get the opening pick. If Citizen could get the kill here, everything could go their way, but no, instead, it's a trade, and Beast Coast are holding on.
Down to a 4v4 now, as Geo tries to push one more into the favor of the Soniqs, but Mr. B gets it instead, finding much better footing here today, as we've already been talking about in previous rounds, at the 4-1 already on round number 3. Gunnar, though, taking up positioning over on defender-sided balcony. He's able to find a trade onto Doc, keeping the numbers even, and now putting it into the Soniqs' advantage. He's able to knock out Mr. B and stop his rampage on this run. Another one, as another individual challenge comes out. Beast Coast continuing to give too much away here to just this single player, and may very well lose the round because of it, with everything now being down to Vertical in the 1v3.
One tug just around the corner, 2 covering Rexon with the bomb going down, a 4K from Gunnar in that round. And I mean, you gotta give credit to him. Gotta give credit to him in that round, not just for getting that 4K, but he is the key reason on that cocktail balcony swing for why Soniqs actually ended up winning that round, because there was very little control, and if Citizen had gotten that kill, Gunnar would not nearly have had to do as much work. Soniqs would have had white stairs control, and then of course, Citizen does have to pressure Vertical, but at least he's made it up to that second floor. This time, Gunnar, all that's on his shoulders is repelling in cocktail balcony and winning a bunch of fights. And that is a very difficult fight to win. Not just 1, but 4 that Gunnar ended up winning. The fact that Soniqs were even in that position is a little bit worrying with how long they took to just do the same thing they did in round number 1. But Gunnar, a player who's gotten a little bit of flack on this roster in comparison to the other players, it's big plays like that that you can always count on him to make.
Potentially expect a little bit more hesitance from Beast Coast this time on the aggression side of things due to what had transpired there and how they'd given those 4 individual gunfights over to a member of the Soniqs. As a result of that, Soniqs may also kind of have solved their early round problem because of that if Beast Coast do decide to play things back a little bit closer to the site. Now, thankfully, they're on the second floor site, so by nature of it, they do still need to extend, play things out up here on the 3rd floor once more. So there's still going to be some extended resistance, but may end up peeling it back or try to play into the depths of the site a little bit more based on what just happened there on round number 3.
repick to Brava that we see from Citizen, an operator that we're likely going to always give a little bit more attention to than even the overall lineup, just because of her new presence and release with Operation Commanding Force. There are a few very good cams you could acquire on Cafe to watch your flank, which is what we've seen Brava do often. Not necessarily go straight for the EDDs or something like that, but hack a couple default cams to have something watching your back. One example is Red Hall, but given the fact that the site is reading room and dining, maybe not a priority for Citizen. But if people want to go on, say, the stage rappel, when acquiring that bit of control on the map, you could hack the outside default cam and watch all of these runouts, doors, and windows to make sure that the defense can't get aggressive with you. I don't know if that's entirely what Citizen is going for, but Cafe, because of just it's basically a big box, that's one usage for Brava that'll be very useful if Soniqs want to go for it.
Soniqs once again with a slow wind-up here in the first minute. No one setting foot in the building. It's entirely drone presence they work themselves for, as well as the few repels, of course, that we can see, especially over here on the L side of the building. Vertical, in the meanwhile, has become a victim of that pressure, it seems like right now. Mr. B trying to help him out to the best of his own capability, rotating around as well, out in the open bar at the moment, thankfully. Very little pressure coming from Skylight, as well as the red and new Hatch drop side, just as of yet. That's going to start to change, of course. Just a few players commit themselves to it now. Hat also here, ready to fend off said pressure as he quickly deals with the Gemini. He's going to have to deal with a little bit of direct play. Turns around too early. It's not even ready for the fight when Rexen swings through the walls, sitting underneath of Red Hatch. And as a result of that, first kill goes cleanly towards the Soniqs as Hat goes down.
Unfortunate series of events. Hat, unfortunately, I think maybe thinking that Rexen would not have been that aggressive on the sledge opening up, and Doc clearly not thinking that Grixer would be as aggressive as he was. Walks in through the snow door, now has sight control firmly in his hands. Hyper does find one, Rexen not knowing that the hatch is open. A lot of missed information today between Beast Coast and Soniqs, but if both teams are making mistakes, it's still Soniqs with the lead. They'll continue to widen it with Gunnar cutting down one more. Citizen tagging on for his first kill of the round. Hyper, the only one to get a kill in this round for Beast Coast. Well, now he's got to get 4 more. An ace overall to win this. Planted just around the corner. Citizen walks right into him. Diffuser dropped, but Gunnar still in the clutch. 2 rounds in a row. He's brought around back from the brink.
Hyper seems like he's in it for a moment there, but thankfully, once again, the Overwatch is already established in the top balconies we see on the replay, and that quickly shuts down any clutch potential as he tries to work himself back into the depths of the library there, trying to keep himself alive and hold on to case control. Does not play out. Third round for the Soniqs is claimed, and it looks like we are going to get the Beast Coast timeout on this round 2 to figure out what exactly is going wrong on these defenses and whether they need to add more to the aggressive side of things in order to keep holding back the Soniqs, as we've already seen them kind of fall victim to that on at least a few rounds, nearly losing it because of that, or if they need to potentially peel back their own strategy and play things a bit more passively.
I will say, at least in the early round for Beast Coast, everything before Grixer walking into sight from Snowdoor, there wasn't anything deep or systemic with Beast Coast issues. Hat, unfortunately, just turning around and sprinting. Definitely the right call was, as he was backing up, watch that ticket wall, watch that area that Rexen was entering, just to make sure that you aren't going to get shot in the back. That unfortunately ends up falling, and the C4 misses. But at least in the early round, Beast Coast had the right idea. Slowly pull back towards that cocktail side, and then waste Soniqs time. But once that happened, then we actually had the big issue, which was nobody watching Snowdoor, not too great of attention paid to pillars by Beast Coast, and that's something on reading and dining that Soniqs will take advantage of. Using Chalet as an example, they are very famous for just opening up that window just outside of bar above garage, right on that first floor main stairs, and just sending it into the site. Reading and dining is a similar situation. Barrel open that snow door, walk right on in, you have sight control. If you aren't paying attention to pillar in that doorway, Soniqs will take advantage of it, and we need to see Beast Coast remedy that.
All right, we're getting ourselves into round number 5 now. We are going to see the Soniqs once again try to potentially flirt with the shield operators and maybe actually be sticking with it this time, as it's a repick from the start. Geo is going to more than likely bring in the Montaigne to try and ease their access to inside of Bakery more than anything else. They really struggled to get that Bakery control the last time we went for the downstairs push. This is probably going to be a good adjustment to account for that, give them that earlier control and make that final push a little bit less chaotic, as they did get a bit strapped for time, but I believe we're still able to control things when everything was said and done.
It was a very hectic set of engagements, wasn't it, that round? Just all going through that first floor. Though, if you have Rexen, it might be possible. So far, 4-0 on the entry for Soniqs so far. Not only have Soniqs acquired every single opening engagement, but Rexen has been the one to win every single one of them. But even then, that round, as you mentioned, was in danger of going the other way, and they just barely were able to stabilize that control on the first floor. And right now, it appears they are not going with the same thing. See, 2 players are pulling up to the top floor and to the middle floor and getting at least some more secure map control, even if it's not the entire map, but pushing these defenders back and gathering a little bit of pressure on that top floor, I think would be a good idea for Soniqs, instead of just trying to send it all into the first floor, where every single member of Beast Coast is currently playing.
All All right, well, Beast Coast, yet again, continuing to hold things out. Seems like they do read into the shield swap as well, playing it back a little bit more. Vertical is going to have to potentially give up his positioning on Bakery a bit earlier than the previous round because of that, but we'll see how exactly they try to use that force more so over the next 30 to 40 seconds here. Vert's actually potentially trying to swing up there and get a bit more aggressive towards the doorway, but we're not going to see anything come from that, as the rest of the team for the Sonic side is focusing on the top-down clear first off here. They want to burn out that additional presence. They're even using the Montaigne to do that at this early phase of the round.
If Beast Coast are giving it to you for free, you might as well use that and use the sledge that Gunnar has been playing every single round so far and get that vertical control, because you're also running those 2 sets of nades. You always have the sledge, you always have the Yana. You can get some very good kills onto players inside of either of the bomb sites, to be frank with you, and then use that to move down and fully pressure players on white stairs or red stairs, respectively. It appears they're going for a push down white stairs, just given pushing down red, you open yourself up to a lot of crossfires, you have to get code check control, whereas with white, you really only need to push down those stairs, get someone outside the VIP double window to put pressure on, well, right now, Hat currently playing inside of VIP, and then you can move forward. Now, Soniqs have opened up that freezer hatch. The nades will likely start moving towards the default plant position or towards the shield, and then Soniqs, whichever control first they gain or first breaks for Beast Coast, that's where they'll try to move in and gain more space.
Beast Coast continuing to maintain that additional stairs pressure heading into the final minute of the round here, mainly centered around the staircases, now preventing the descent from the members of the Sonics that are opening up these top-down angles and looking to make the transition themselves. White is not held off at the moment here, as we are going to be able to see the Sonics make their way to the bottom of that one, maintain that control. Citizen as well, good patience here to be able to catch Hat as he peeks out from the inside of the lower level VIP. In the meanwhile, didn't want to go for a re-peek over by Whiskey Stairs, but quickly backs up when he realizes no one is there. The rest of the action is kicking off here, though, as the Sonics have fully committed themselves, it seems. Bringing it down to a 4v2. And quite a few kills, I believe, from those top-down angles as well. Vert has already been pushing into the depths of Prep Kitchen, no longer really has a way to play into the engagement, and the rest of the team now dropping down through the dining room hatch into Freezer, where they should have a free plant here, as I don't think Beast Coast have any way to stop this at the moment.
No, Hyper will get the first kill, and the Vertical might be able to catch a second as the Monty falls off, but no, the shield goes up right at the, well, the wrong time for Vertical. Now a 1v3 with a Monty right in your face, backed into a corner. It's nothing that could not be a Soniqs 4-1 lead at the moment. And I have to say, we saw that shaky kitchen attack, and even though Soniqs were very proficient on the cocktail side and ending up being on the raiding side, that shaky kitchen could have been a foreshadowing of bad things to come, but that round appears to be an anomaly because the adjustments they made going for that full clear, it was clean all the way through.
Beast Coast basically out of the round as soon as they had been brought down to 2 players, had taken up too much positioning. The Soniqs, this is now once they had been able to drop their way in through the hatch, and fortunately the entry power just too strong. No way for Beast Coast to be able to fight back against that one. Just had to respect it, had to play it back, had to hope for a mistake in the 2v4, and was never given that opportunity. So the Soniqs excel and clean things up here to claim a 4th round. Just 3 more to go, and the game is theirs, but we've got 1 more still on this half as they'll attempt to make it 5-1.
And even a 4-2 half, if Beast Coast can get this round, be very problematic. But however they win this round, let's say they win it, their only other defensive win would have been a 1v2 clutch from Mr. B, in which he was given a 1v1, and then admittedly played the final 1v1, winning on time very effectively. So while it was a good individual play, a 4-2 half would mean only one of your defenses might have been won by legitimately outright winning the round. If Beast Coast want to do that, they need to pay a lot more attention to that snow door and that pillar door, and be a little bit less aggressive on that roam. And by a little bit less aggressive, don't just assume something behind you is clear, watch it, but then slowly pull back to that cocktail side. And if Beast Coast can do that, I do genuinely think they could pick up their second defense in a convincing manner.
Let's see now if they'll be able to find that for themselves. The Soniqs are out onto the board. No huge surprises when it comes to the operators. They brought very much the same flair that they've been showing throughout the rest of this half, and we can say very much the same thing for the upstairs hold on Beast Coast. Now, a bit of a mobile lineup for Beast Coast here. They're going to have quite a bit of throwable utility along with that one to try and hold back players as they move in throughout the map. A very dynamic utility set here that they can put down onto the ground as needed, and as they get a better picture in terms of where Soniqs are going to try to execute towards first. We do have the defensive matrix set up in kind of the obvious resistance spot, looking to try and stop Soniqs from taking that early red control. Once more, Soniqs, of course, obliging into that one as they do start to establish themselves on the rooftop here, while the rest of the team is still kind of droning things out and establishing initial positioning.
Hat very much concerned with that ticket position, that ticket repel, as he was before. But Soniqs have not pushed in nearly as aggressively as they had in the initial reading attack. They've taken things a lot slower, which is a trend we've seen from Soniqs overall this stage, in the border game yesterday and the cafe game today. At the early round, a lot slower than it used to be, but they still retain that decisiveness when they see an opportunity and see an opening provided to them by the defense, which is how they won the reading round last time we saw it. Many Sonic players now moving up on these repels, instead moving to the dining window and not taking that ticket control like we saw in the previous reading round. Soniqs maybe taking things very directly as Citizen creeps up downstairs. A Goomine will reveal his position, but the first thing gives, and it's unfortunately for Soniqs, a kill for Beast Coast. The vertical is down soon after.
Doc picking up another one, actually, to put Beast Coast back in an advantageous position. Gunner makes a good response on a Hyper, at least, but Hyper is able to control it, backs up and avoids his own premature death. A nade will be chucked in from the Sonic to try and finish off Hyper, but it's unfortunately a little bit too uncooked. Is not going to end up making the impact that they would have liked to have found here. Citizen with a deep cut now, going all the way into Pillar here. Good management of the crossfire from up on top, but is going to need to try and line up an actual angle to make things work for himself, and so far has not been able to find that just yet. Beast Coast not obliging the aggression here, not giving over these opportunities for the Soniqs to carve away back into this round, despite them being more than ready, it seems, to execute into the site. Now they just don't have the confidence for it yet, and as they move forward, trade's going to go all over the place, but it's heavily against the Soniqs' favor. Leaving Citizen alone now inside of the 1v3. Only one trade claim from it. Good read here from Citizen. Somehow knew Mr. B was going to hop over the banister right there and is able to take him down because of it. Two more targets still standing in Citizen's way, though, for this clutch, and unfortunately a very limited amount of time. 10 seconds per player, and he'll go down to the first one. Hat closes down on one final round for Beast Coast here as they lock in a 2-4 half.
Now that looked very similar to that kitchen round, that with a lot of insecure control for Soniqs, instead of seeing the very quick, very easy, it seemed, control they acquired in that previous reading round, similar to round number 2, the only other round they dropped, they were very uncertain for about 2/3 of that entire round. Not sure where to push up, not sure what to control, and Beast Coast were relatively unpressured throughout the majority of that round. And then Soniqs try to go for broke, try to flood the middle floor, and they get some kills, but it ends up being that Beast Coast come away with the engagements. Either way, while those 2 rounds were a little worrying from Soniqs, those seem to be anomalies in their overall very solid attacks in the 4 rounds that they won, and getting a 4-2 half on Cafe attack, if their defenses, and this round in particular, look clean, this could still be a very quick game.
Yep, time to see how Soniqs look to quickly make a statement now on the defensive side. Will they be as aggressive, looking to challenge Beast Coast at entry points here, especially considering they can deploy towards a horizontal setup on this first floor hold that they're going to go to on the first round of their defense. Definitely looks like one to play heavily into that, as we can see the setup leading some support into areas like VIP across on the site, as well as the freezer area too, and then the usual suspects being picked up over here inside of kitchen, prep, and the bakery to allow Soniqs to continue to maintain as much control over the entirety of this floor throughout the round as possible.
Hoping we see Vert step up as well. He went 0-6 on the defense, obviously not very present in the entries, but now he's a lot more the main entry for Beast Coast on this attack as well. So hopefully we can see him step it up in particular, and if Beast Coast can start cutting open a path into the building, even if it's only a slight one in the early round, and Vertical's the one to do it, they'll have a lot better of a chance if he's, well, going 0-7 by the end of round number 7. Hat also moving to the Nook. We see Beast Coast not only trying to go for the traditional entry of the Vertical, but Hat trying to provide that similar X-Factor style of play that we saw Citizen do in the previous round. Some utility already dispensed with inside of Bakery and inside of the site, and early control acquired by Beast Coast. Even though it's not a lot, we've still being able to see them acquire this early beachhead and start to maybe push forward into coat check later and pinch a player on bottom red from Small Bake. It's good to see Beast Coast at least being decisive with what they want early on.
Taking some very good map control very early on, as you had mentioned. Rexon now going to be pressured as a result of that. 2 other players off the site as well, no longer going to be in a good position to potentially play things out. Away from that, though, Beast Coast continuing to deploy ever so slowly throughout this map, taking up the bakery position, but unable to move beyond that just as of yet, as they're still waiting for their teammates to make further action on the upstairs hold, it seems.
No one watching those coat check holes at the moment, so Rexon might find himself in a pinch, but now Geo has dropped down to brownstairs, likely to bolster that position and to make sure that Beast Coast can't readily take it. But Beast Coast are starting to run into a problem that Soniqs did in round 2. A lot of pressure around the middle floor, but it's looking like all they'll have as an option is just to flood in, and that can be very equal between the teams, and if you're attacking, that's not a great sign. Mr. B will start out, and that's the coat check player now done and dusted. Geo is close by on brownstairs, and still some players up on the top floor, so if Beast Coast can cement some increased middle floor control, take down the player on brown, this will be a lot more decisive thanks to that kill they just acquired.
Once again, the Sonics trying to bait out the remaining time. Now down a player from the total overall count. Beast Coast, in the meanwhile here, continue to deploy incredibly slowly as well, taking ever so much care on this entry. Not necessarily the style we expect to see out of Beast Coast, but it's working so beautifully right now as they claim a second kill, still with without virtually any response coming in from the members of the Sonics. Mr. Bree, unfortunately, pushes into the site. I mean, look at it, like basically on his own here as he hops over the wall. Thankfully, Beast Coast still have full control of the scenario, so it's not going to change the scope of the round out that much. It's a little bit of a mistake here, trying to get the plant down onto the ground, but they are still very much in full control of the situation here, unless Brixer gives us a real show. That's now one player fully down. Mr. B still on the ground, of course, from the toxic base, but there we go. Doc finally with a counter angle on red to shut out the round. But they do take control of the first one here in the second half.
Extremely patient attack from Beast Coast. It's always risky going for that extremely minimal attacking strat when you have vertical, well, not just the player, but also angles at your disposal if you want to go for them. But Sonics were running a heavy roam on that middle floor. 2 different players, 3 as well, before Geo rotated down, all holding vertical angles, watching into the site, watching Bakery. So Beast Coast decide to attack the co-check positions, attack some of those weak points on the middle floor, or some of those obvious entry points. But again, nothing really on white stairs, not much on brown either. They were just sitting there and waiting for Sonics to peek, and maybe some of them were pushed out of their positions, or maybe some of them gave up gunfights, but whatever it was, with how little Beast Coast had for so much of the round, it's almost a little bewildering how Sonics somehow gave that one away.
So now, the Sonics faltering on their first round of the second half. That is going to leave them in a bit of a vulnerable position overall for the map now. 4-3, just one round ahead of Beast Coast's overall scoreline. Let's take a look and see what Sonics going to bring to the table for the second floor hold. Overall, nothing too surprising, just the usual assortment of a delay. Other forms of mitigation utility coming in for them. Attack as well, not going to give us anything that is going to scare us too much. In fact, pretty much no repicks either. Aside from Doc going over from a Zofia to an Ashe, which that's just kind of a horizontal change anyway. Yeah. The operator pretty much doing the same exact thing at the end of the day.
Ashe at least a little quicker than the Zofia now. A little bit faster if Doc wants to get into that building quickly. The Rexen looking to get out of the building just as quick. Goes for the spawn peek, but 2! Cut down by Beast Coast. Hyper taking a lot of damage as they try to take out Gunner. But if Sonics gambled, well, it didn't pay off in any way, shape, or form. But now this might cost them their only 1-round lead, decreased from 2 starting this half. And if it's because of those 2 very aggressive spawn peaks, it's going to be a rough one going into round number 9.
So 1/3 of the round gone, and already Sonics being reduced down to 3/5 of their defense here. One of those players still having to extend control onto the second floor because of the way that Beast Coast is now going to proceed forward as well. They won't have as much respect to areas like the train room as well as mining. So there is a possibility that Beast Coast try to directly insert themselves to the second floor because of the inherent player advantage they already have and how much control that gives them over their aggression on this map right now.
So Geo is being very aggressive, as you often need to do in a 3v5 with the stage position. You can get pinched so easily. 2 players willing to take the fight on Repel, and a 3rd player falls on Sonics. Grixer and Citizen both have those 2 C4s, and with one maybe being able to rotate down below, the Yana is not watching the white window. Citizen could creep down, maybe even jump out if he's really feeling risky and not learning from Gunner and Rexen's actions, but no, he'll take the safe route. Rotate down the white stairs and play the vertical. This is such a difficult position for the Sonics. Still just a little under half the round to go. The attack have their full utility and full manpower, and Beast Coast are not getting over aggressive. They've reset right now, are using their remaining 5 drones to find this intel and find good spots for their utility. Hat is creeping his way up through those brown stairs to apply some late round pillar pressure, as the rest of the attack will use that sledgehammer and open up those holes in the first, or the only C4 for Citizen now gone, and that was an easy way to win back a pick, but now we'll have to do it by gunfights, and like either one of these players will have to flank.
Final minute of play here now as the Sonics are down to just 2. Both players relatively exposed as well here due to the top downs that are being opened up by Beast Coast. Bricks are forced into the depths of the supply closet, trying to wait and counter out any drops that are going to come forward. And Citizen just takes a duel on 90, gives his life away in a fight, hoping to try and bring this back from the brink. It's hopeless, unfortunately, on this one for the Sonics. Beast Coast take full command right from the beginning, countering out the spawn peaks and follow it through into a flawless round.
After what was basically a flawless round previously, I don't remember if Mr. B got finished off or not. He was down as he went in for the bomb site to go for a plant, but at the bare minimum ended in a 1v4, and this one, of course, being the full flawless, as we all saw. I was curious to see if Soniqs might have taken the tack timeout after that one, but it appears they'll hold it off for the time being, waiting to see if they fully lose their lead before giving the timeout. I think that's a perfectly understandable option, but I am impressed so far by Beast Coast's patience. They got those 2 early picks, and some might say, okay, just go hit the side at that point, but because they were spawn peaks, they didn't get too aggressive, didn't assume things were clear. They took the time, used their drones, and found that intel. Again, for a team that was playing very undisciplined and very uncoordinated yesterday on Border, very nice to see that on a structured map like Cafe, they're able to bring that level of cohesion and that level of patience that is often necessary.
And so we're going to see how they continue to deploy towards that here. Few repicks coming in. Fairly minor in scope overall. There's just a change-up of Hard Breach and the player that is mounting it as well. Doc is going to take it on the Ace instead of Mr. B on the Hibana. Mr. B himself will just go over towards the Flores to try and take out some of that interior site utility. Very much kind of a required op for this site if there is going to be anything pesky deeper in kitchen, as you won't really have a great way to take it out if you don't have those Flores drones.
Like the adjustment from Gunner onto the Echo, always, if we're going to see it on Cafe, usually this site is the one that we see it on, but combined with the Valkyrie as well, both intel operators left up, those yokai should be very effective in stopping the execute that Beast Coast went for, which was just sitting outside of those first floor windows, waiting for Soniqs to peek, and then taking the control and taking the gunfights once they were given to them. Those yokais can provide some good intel alongside the black eye cameras on players sitting outside those windows, and the Valkyrie cams as well will likely also be stationed on that second floor to provide some help and aid to the roamers who are sitting on that second floor. And on the other side, I want to see how Beast Coast take this. Will they just go with that same direct take they did before, or will they go for that full clear? But given how much roamers Soniqs have on the second floor again, I'd imagine Beast Coast likely going to do something similar, or at least intend to do something similar to what they did before.
Beast Coast already with 1 player inserted by Whiskey. Another one with control already going into Bakery as well. Soniqs with a kind of interesting setup too, is they still have a lot of vertical presence, but Beast Coast paying absolutely zero mind to that at the moment, considering that these players have been able to work their way basically to the edge of the site. I think they may be putting out a call to have their teammates group up with them here and see what they could potentially work. The nades are going to be banked in. More players trying to group up with them, especially over here from Small Bakery, but just not able to line it up just yet. However, still a lot of dangerous potential being built from this, and now it's probably going to explode with Doc finding the opening kill against Geo.
Geo was one of the only players on that bottom floor. Nobody from Soniqs holding co-check or even holding VIP either. A major misstep from Soniqs. They had that top floor control, but they made Beast Coast very take that much easier. They're going to have to rely on those vertical players to either flank down brown stairs, white stairs, or red stairs, and Gunner inside of the site will make things happen, but another player falls for Beast Coast. Soniqs need to start getting aggressive because Gunner is running out of friends.
Citizen as well here, trying to work the angle from up on top, but not able to find his opponents through it here. Does make things a bit difficult as they try to push their way in through Prep Kitchen. And in the meanwhile, Vertical just executing these players out on the site because he wasn't taken down by Citizen. Plant now going in for Mr. B. It's a 3v2 here as both the remaining defenders are coming in from the upstairs hold. Gonna need to pull on a full-out retake. They have no positioning to play from at this point anywhere on the first floor either. Grixer trying to go for a swing from Whiskey, and at the same time his teammate trying to deploy from White. Do they even realize that Hyper's here? No, the lineup potentially being given. Hyper's able to get one of them, and he nearly grabs Grixer as well. Down to sub 10 HP to play out the remaining 1v2. Has intel, 1 player gone prone behind it. Does have a hard ping onto the second one, so he has the intel he needs, but no real time to play this one out. 10 seconds to get on that case now, where the round is lost by default here as he tries to re-entry into the site. Beast Coast is not giving him anything in the duel. Fully blinded by the flash as well, and just walks directly into Vertical as he enters the site. Another shutdown from Beast Coast as they take the lead.
Gotta be a timeout after that one. I mean, now losing 3 defensive rounds in a row for Soniqs, something has got to stop for what they're doing. I mean, not having a co-check player, we have default positions from Soniqs not even being held on their defensive setup. And I admire what they're putting on the roam. I think that's good to stop a Bakery take, to stop anybody from immediately getting pressure inside of the site, but only putting Geo to hold that whole area. I mean, you saw how easily and quietly Doc creeped into VIP and then subsequently took out Geo, moving around that main lobby area, and Geo was the only one holding that area with Gunner and I believe Citizen as well. No, Citizen was upstairs, but still only 2 other players in that site for Soniqs. I mean, there are basic things not being covered by Soniqs in that kitchen defense and losing 3 rounds in a row on defense. I mean, Beast Coast have been playing great so far, but Soniqs are not looking in winning shape for this second half.
Not at all here, so we have to wait and see now what exactly comes from this pause. What do they rebound towards into the next round? Because they are very quickly going to run out of runway to save this situation and avoid a crash inside of this game now. Beast Coast, just 2 more rounds to go. Thankfully, again, not completely out of control just yet. But with how close we are to the end of regulation already, this is not the time to have your performance fall off a cliff on the defensive side of this map. Back over to the second floor hold as they're going to attempt the mining play this time, wanting to try and fend off the walls as well, as we're going to have the electric claws brought up from Gunner to deal with the hatch play, mainly from up on top of Train, a few other pivotal walls as well to be supported by that one. Aside from that, though, no huge surprises for the defending utility.
No huge surprises, but I really want to see a big adjustment in Soniqs play in this, well, in this post-timeout round number 10. Very asleep, Soniqs play in the previous round. Very quiet, not much going on. And so far, in the 4 rounds in a row now, Beast Coast have won on attack and defense, though mainly defense, 3 of the 4 rounds. Beast Coast have got every single opening pick, and it has not been traded out by the Soniqs. Even if they lose this opening kill in this round, I want to see Soniqs being more aggressive and going for that trade, if not winning a fight outright. Not by spawn peeking, but by holding on to these positions, holding on to, say, Pixel, and before they fall back, they fire some pot shots, and even if they don't directly take the fight, they at least make it difficult and tenuous for Beast Coast to acquire this map control, because there is simply too much mechanical skill on this roster, from the top to the bottom, to just be letting Beast Coast get this map control for free.
And so with Beast Coast on and about the map once again, we'll see if they can continue this rampage, which has been alive throughout pretty much the entirety of this half so far. Soniqs yet to claim a round here on the defensive end of it, as they look to try and do so finally on their 3rd attempt to claim it. As it has proven very difficult to find. Things are going to be very slow to deploy once again on this round. That restraint from Beast Coast, though, is how they've been able to take so much control so early on, because the Soniqs still do have to peek out every once in a while to gather for intel.
Indeed.
And unfortunately, that has led to their death more often than not when they have tried to venture into what has ultimately become enemy territory by the time they peek it.
Beast Coast have started to make inroads into the building. I believe we saw one player on that bottom floor just a little bit ago, or at least rotating around. No, Vertical will move out instead. He's acquired some very light control on the bottom of White Stairs, but not much beyond that. Talk about patience again. I will say over half the round gone, and you can call it patience from Beast Coast, but there is often a little bit of reluctance to enter the building, it seems, at times. So that could prove to be a problem if Soniqs do actually get aggressive in this mid-round now and start stopping them as they make these entries. But Soniqs as well have also relatively pulled back. We even have somebody from Beast Coast on that top floor now. Everyone from Soniqs moved back down to that middle floor. It is mining and dining, not reading and dining as we often see, but still plenty of vertical control that could be acquired by the attack with, well, an abundance of time, to be frank with you, with which they can acquire that vertical control, with control of White Stairs as well. Beast Coast already have some entry points, potential entry points down into that site. And if we don't see these C4s from Citizen, Gunner, or Geo actually hit anything, we're gonna have problems.
So, as we move into that final minute of action now, Beast Coast ready to try and move themselves onto the second floor. They'll try to swing this forward. Gunner strikes first this time, though. Oh no, Rexon gets a free one here. They just walk right into his setup, none the wiser to his position. The Soniqs finally taking command of a round as they've struggled to do so all throughout this half so far. Mr. B now inside of the 1v3. Gonna try and clutch this one out to the best of his own capability, but very much out of the fight for the most part here. Citizen with the final swing shuts it down, and the Soniqs preserve. They tie us up once again here as finally they're able to lock in a defensive round.
And in this round, Soniqs' patience and reluctance to play aggressively in the early to mid round actually turns into a virtue, because Beast Coast, they get that top floor control. They have the ability to get vertical control and start moving down White and Red Stairs, but they take quite a bit of time, and they don't actually open up many ways to move down to the site. All they really tried to do was push down and up those White Stairs. And Soniqs, who again didn't get aggressive in the early round, they kept their all 5 members of the roster, all of their roamers, and pulled them back to the site. Well then, this time, they just played their positions, and Beast Coast's lack of intel and just running and funneling into White Stairs and into Laundry actually allowed Soniqs just to sit there, play like a sentry gun, get those kills, and get their first defense on this half. So while I would still like to see maybe Soniqs be a little bit more aggressive, if Beast Coast start to fumble on their attacks, then playing patiently is actually the recipe for success.
And so, actually the final few rounds coming up here if either team is able to center themselves for it. East Coast, just a small repick coming into this one. A slight change up to the way that they're going to be approaching towards soft breach. And actually another one there as well. Hat just preferring to go for the Twitch in this situation. Instead, not going to be finding as much use from the Nook. So probably going to be just joining up with the main pushing force instead of trying to play his own game over towards a white Styrus play in this late round or something like that. Away from that though. We are into the round now, and once again, it's the Soniqs looking to make another statement on the other second floor site here. Lock in map point after quite a bit of struggles to get to this stage of the game.
As you've all seen right now, as our observer has graciously pointed out, there was nobody on the site as we left the prep phase, but still there's currently only one player on that middle floor. It is Citizen down in Red Hall. Now we often see a large allocation of resources in terms of utility and player count on that top floor, so that isn't entirely surprising for Soniqs, but they do need to be worried. Beast Coast have been very slow on this attack, I will say. They might not read into that opportunity, but if they do their homework and find that the site is not protected, if Citizen is never joined by one of those roamers, that's a glaring opening for Beast Coast to take if they want to just try and go for broke and win that fight. But at least at the moment, they're looking to go for this full clear, looking to play into this extension upstairs for Soniqs, and those two C4 specifically. Now, yes, Geo and Citizen downstairs. They'll likely try and play below, maybe in that mining position, below Christmas to try and get a C4, or even if the attackers just eventually push up long bar, try to get a kill from below.
Soniqs continuing to wait out this time here. Once again, already used that about a minute of the rounds. Beast Coast trying to prep themselves up for the push forward. Doc has the winning angle here to try and grab Rex, and if he fully commits to the rotate down through white, but going to be a lot of patience required for this one, as it does not look like Rexon is going to be forced to move anytime soon. We'll continue to hold that in a stalwart way. Away from that, though, the rest of Beast Coast similarly taking up positioning, similarly getting themselves ready to move forward and try to claim that first kill where they can overwhelm things, both on the second and third floor here. Vertical, a bit of Overwatch as well to flanks that may be coming in from the downstairs portion of the map. A little bit paranoid right now as he deploys himself towards that. No need to potentially counter that out, but maybe later on in the round could be useful here. Either way, it's a whole lot of setup here to finally see Mr. B claim that first kill against Citizen, knocking him down as we enter the final minute of play here. BC continuing to excel on these angles as well. A second kill now picked up. Gunner has a third member of the team restricted inside of Cigar as they try to rotate around and get themselves back down closer to the site. It's not going to end up working out. Geo is able to get himself out from the site, takes down Mr. B, at least ends his play, but Vertical from BC still causing more problems for this defensive setup. It is now brought to Geo and Grix.
Well, only Grix now and on low HP as well. He's got that useful vertical control, but Beast Coast have recovered the diffuser. One upstairs, Grix will say, no, no, no thank you, I'll take the fight from below, but he loses it nonetheless. Match point for Beast Coast. One round away from winning this in regulation in what could be, despite it being game number one of the most stunning upsets of today.
All right, well, like we said, huge potential for upset coming in here if we can see that kind of underdog rebound story continuing from yesterday. We had it for Parabellum. We nearly had it for Mirage as well. And now Beast Coast looking to potentially take it and put Soniqs in a very rough overall position as far as this group stage is concerned here, with two potential losses being notched under their belt. Yes, of course, they still get some points for the game versus SSG yesterday because they took it to overtime and still could very well have the same outcome here. But that's the best case scenario they are looking at this point here, is an overtime victory, with Beast Coast now already being on their 6th round.
Kitchen will be the site where either Soniqs save their chance at coming away with a W or lose in regulation to Beast Coast, who will then acquire all 3 points from today's matchup. The big problem here for Soniqs, the big glaring issue for their defense before, was not a very tight defensive setup. They had two roamers, but basically foregoed any large co-check control or VIP pressure, instead leaving it to basically only Geo to hold with maybe some support from the site. But Beast Coast quickly took advantage of that, moved into VIP, moved into Brown Bar, and secured that early on in the round, and then spent the remainder of the middle round, this very position, working around it and securing more control. I want to see Soniqs hold that coat check position more actively, and maybe even not stock so many defenders on that top floor. You can have one, that's fine, but start rotating back and make sure the Beast Coast can't take the first floor, the very area around your site, completely for free.
So, slow play here from both teams once again as Beast Coast makes their way out onto the map and is going to begin taking up additional positioning. Citizen, meanwhile, will be taking up a very active role, it seems, up on the 3rd floor, trying to counter any of this initial clear. He has very little utility support or any even sort of reinforcement support here, so don't expect him to maintain this for very long. More likely going to end up giving up that position relatively quickly. Brixer Meanwhile, taking up a much more direct counter roll over towards Bakery, but Beast Coast wasting absolutely zero time here already with Bakery access. Already, as you heard here, with a wall opened up now. That's going to put some immediate pressure onto the Soniqs. We'll call back Citizen. Anyone else that's out on a roam as well is going to have to be hyper aware of the next few seconds for if they are going to be ending up needed in the site.
Sticking with this very direct style of play, Hats realized that with the co-check window barricaded, he might have a free access point into VIP. He's still got to be careful. He'll expose himself to a lot of angles. He might just have an access point right here to gain some pressure onto that middle floor. Of course, Rexen could still peek out from the hallway and take him down, and Hat using that last frag grenade has revealed his position. But with still over half the round to go, he's got time. He doesn't need to immediately sprint on in and play. This could be so huge from Hat, especially if Beast Coast can acquire some bottom white pressure. That VIP player could fall like a domino, and Rexen would surely fall after as Beast Coast are looking to focus on removing both of them from position.
Rexen taking a lot of heat right now, but still in the fight. Just barely here inside of coat check. Mitcher's been chucked out nearby here. Hat finally able to lock in a kill, but it's not against Rexen. It's another member of the team is going to end up taking him down. Hat does finish off Grixer in the meanwhile, though, over on the Valkyrie, so was able to take her down. But Citizen finally finding a response. Is able to hold on to things from the upstairs position, countering out the initial push onto the side of Prep Kitchen. Takes that player down. Gunner as well, nearly knocking out another one here as they try to push past the breach. Hat and out Doc ended up losing a considerable amount of HP. Rexen still down on the ground, but it looks like Gio is starting to work his way over for a potential revive. It's going to be in the cards. There is definitely another member of Beast Coast sitting in the way. Mr. B takes down another member of the interior site defense with Gunner going out, and Gio's found just a second later as well. Mr. B just taking full control along with the rest of his teammates, and they'll take full control of this matchup as well. Beast Coast giving us yet another underdog upset as they close it out at the tail end of regulation.
I don't think it actually set into me how well Beast Coast were doing until they've just won the game.
Yeah, like out of nowhere, right?
I mean, the entire time, I'm not even going to lie to you guys. I was like, oh, Soniqs will recover, and it just never happened. And before we go, you want to know might be why that is? 7 rounds in a row that Beast Coast has got the opening engagement, and none of them were traded.
7 rounds in a row.
From the end of their attack, or the end of their defense to their attack, a flawless attacking half on the entries.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for game number 1. The analysis desk probably has a lot to say about this one, so let's go to a break. When we come back, we'll have them ready to break this game.